The city of Phoenix calls itself an oasis in the desert, and truly it is. But we also think that the city has the potential to do even better. Phoenix can potentially be a Garden of Eden in the desert. Some facts about Phoenix are that Phoenix has over 40 food deserts, with around 42% of the population living in such an area. Also, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, about 21% of Phoenix residents live in poverty. Another fact, which may seem unrelated but actually isn't, is that Phoenix is currently attempting to sell around 5,000 vacant, unused parcels that it owns. This is related because these vacant lots contribute to food desert struggles and could even be utilized in overcoming some of these problems. Food deserts will often host convenience stores and gas stations, often containing sugary snacks and other unhealthy food-like products. Living in a food desert can make it difficult for families to access nutritious foods, especially when a person is impoverished or doesn't have transportation. Phoenix can eradicate food deserts and potentially be a Garden of Eden, with a few minor changes. This is a map of Maricopa County. Phoenix and a few suburb cities are in this county. The majority of food deserts located in Maricopa County are in the city of Phoenix. Estimates say that there are over 200,000 residents of the county who must travel more than a mile to get to the nearest grocery store. According to the city of Phoenix, in Phoenix there are 43 food deserts in the city, which are more than 75% of the total number of food deserts in Maricopa County. This map highlights the food deserts in Maricopa County. Food deserts and food insecurity affect young and old alike. Meet Shayla. Shayla loves to read and dreams about being a chef one day. Her and her mom have to take 2 buses to get to a grocery store. Most days it is easier to just buy junk food at the local gas station. Shayla and her mom live in a food desert. Meet Jackie. Jackie is homeless. Some days she finds food in dumpsters, and some days she just goes hungry. Jackie loves helping others, even though she has so little herself. Meet Sam. Sam is retired and lives on a fixed income. He also lives in a food desert. He grows some of his own food to meet his dietary needs and to stay within his budget. Sam loves to teach others how to grow food. How many more food banks would Phoenix need to ensure all residents have food every day? In fact, it wouldn't take any more food banks. Phoenix's best natural resources are its open spaces and its sun. Why not take advantage of these? But how do you feed so many hungry people and at the same time make Phoenix a more attractive place to live? The answer is to promote urban agriculture through legislative changes and effective implementation. As identified by the city's Brownsfields to Greenfields project, the city of Phoenix has 43 food deserts within its city limits. This potentially leaves tens of thousands of residents at a disadvantage when it comes to healthy food. The lack of food choices often leads to poor nutrition and diet, obesity, heart disease, and overall poor health. Downstream effects of this are a drain on the healthcare system, a drain on government-funded programs such as SNAP, Medicaid, Medicare, and possibly ill effects on a child's ability to effectively learn and thrive in school. Phoenix codes just need a few small adjustments to be able to eradicate the 43 food deserts inside of its city limits. In determining what adjustments to make to the city's codes, we would first need to determine what overall goals we have in mind. To make Phoenix a Garden of Eden, we need to first eliminate the food deserts. Second, we need to be able to help provide healthy, affordable, fresh food to low-income areas, make urban gardens available to all residents, especially in low-income areas, and also to forge partnerships with those who can help with these plans. Third, we need to transform unused vacant lots into beautiful food-bearing spaces. Of course, these goals might seem like an unachievable dream, but they can become a reality. These dreams can become a reality through policy changes. We are proposing some minor permitting changes to adapt the landscape in the following areas. 1. Permit changes for new development as well as revitalizations. 2. Permit changes for parks development and park revitalizations. 3. Vacant lots that the city owns will be available for a 10-year lease for the sole use of a community garden. So let's dig a little deeper into each of these. Goal number 1 is to have all residents living within a short distance of free, edible fruit. Recommendation number 1. The city shall mandate that any new development project has landscaping, for example, parking lots, retail shopping, commercial buildings, will need to have a minimum of 33% of the landscaping vegetation in the project be trees or shrubs that bear edible fruit. Currently, landscaping plans must be approved prior to the final site plan. The city has a list of approved trees, shrubbery, and plants that are acceptable to use in the new development, whether commercial or residential. Fruit-bearing trees and shrubbery that grow well in the Phoenix climate should be added to the list. Some suggestions are peaches, plums, apricots, apples, figs, blueberries, raspberries, dates, grapes, mangoes, plums, papaya, and citrus. No chemicals will be used on or near edible landscape. In keeping with easy access to healthy foods for food-insecure residents, the city must implement restrictions on chemical pesticides and synthetic fertilizers used on edible vegetation, as well as implement an integrated pest management program to include organic practices. Normally, landscaping plans must include an assessment of existing plants and trees that are currently growing on the property, an assessment of existing trees on the property that can be salvaged and reused, an assessment of which ones will be discarded, and of what will be newly planted. After the assessments, developers must then choose from a list of trees and plants that they will incorporate into the landscaping plan. Fruit-bearing trees and shrubs will be added to the approved list. Additionally, the city has a manual of how city-owned landscapes, such as sidewalks and median areas, are to be set up and maintained. Manuals such as these would need to be adjusted to reflect the 33% rule in organic maintenance practices. These practices, with the newly amended recommendations, would also be a guidebook for non-city-owned landscape maintenance, such as retail lot owners, commercial lot owners, and housing tracts with common space landscaping. These entities will be required to follow the same organic guidelines for all edible landscape and would submit their maintenance plans with their landscape plan permit application. According to Phoenix's general plan, their goal regarding parks is to provide a world-class park system where every resident has a high level of access to a variety of recreational options that support a healthy lifestyle. The measure of success on this goal will be, according to the city, a minimum of 90% of residents live within 5 miles of a district park, 1.5 miles of a community park, and 0.5 miles of a neighborhood park. Having parks within close proximity to every resident is a wonderful aspiration, but why not pair that with access to food? More needs to be done to address food deserts and food insecurity, as mentioned before, because Phoenix has a very high population of impoverished people. If every resident lived within 0.5 miles of a small food source and 1.5 to 5 miles of a larger food source, the city could effectively stamp out food deserts. Wouldn't it be encouraging to a homeless or hungry person to know that if they weren't able to secure a meal that day, that they could just go to a park with edible landscape and pick some fruit from a tree. Others living in the neighborhood could walk to a park and grow their own fresh and healthy food there. Experienced gardeners could teach new gardeners. In 2008, Phoenix voters opted to renew the Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative through the year 2038. The initiative sets aside 1 cent of sales tax for every $10 of purchases to, in part, improve and renovate existing parks. 60% of initiative proceeds are dedicated to improvements and renovation of city parks and acquisition of land for future city parks. 40% is dedicated to land acquisition and development of the city's desert preserves, including trails, trailheads, and signage. Paired with goal number 2, the following permit changes are suggested for new park development and old park revitalization. Any new parks or old parks to be revitalized will include a minimum of 33% edible fruiting trees or shrubs in their vegetation plan. Also, parks must include 10% of the overall park space to be devoted to community garden space. In keeping with easy access to healthy foods for food-insecure residents, the city must also implement restrictions on chemical pesticides and synthetic fertilizer use on or near edible vegetation, as well as implement an integrated pest management program to include organic practices. Landscape permits, plant lists, manuals, and checklists will be adjusted to add these provisions. But what will happen if the community growing spaces are not utilized? This is where partnerships come in. The goal of recommendation number 2B is for Phoenix to partner with local nonprofit organizations, garden clubs, retirees, HOAs, scouts, and other community organizations to ensure utilization of community garden spaces in public parks. The city could even promote a program such as Adopt a Plot, much like the Adopt a Highway signs we are already used to seeing. These partnerships can help with underutilized garden space and community engagement. As mentioned before, the city is encouraged to partner with local nonprofit organizations and other community organizations to coordinate the use of these urban community gardens. Other Arizona cities have already paired with organizations like their local university, grassroots garden clubs, senior citizens clubs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and many others like these. These groups can assist in urban gardening and coordination. Another community group that has organized itself in order to bring community gardens to the Phoenix area is called Growing Together. It is a self-organized neighborhood group whose mission is to bring community-grown foods to local charities and food banks through their gardens. Additionally, the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension, Arizona Health Zone SNAP, employs people who specifically help others start community gardens in order to promote fresh and healthy food in the Phoenix community. These are only a few of the resources that the City of Phoenix could access, and there are so many more. Forming partnerships with community organizations would be key to ensuring garden space is utilized. Vacant lots add an eyesore factor to the community. According to Build a Better Burb, 43% of all lots in Phoenix are empty, totaling over 500 square miles of land. Not only do vacant lots look unsightly, but they sometimes tend to attract mischief in the community, becoming a space to dump trash, paint graffiti, or engage in illegal activity. Some feel that Phoenix has had a bad reputation for poor land management, accusing the city of keeping too much land that is unused and unneeded. The bigger problem of unused land is that it adds to the food desert issues, which is another layer contributing to food insecurity. Recommendation number 3. City leased vacant lots. As stated before, the city owns over 5,000 vacant lots which it is trying to sell. The vacant lots are eyesores all around the city and sometimes are filled with trash, dilapidated buildings, weeds, and can be places for mischief for idle hands. Since the city has had such a difficult time selling these huge amounts of vacant lots, why not take 43 of them, one in each food desert, and let someone transform them into food-producing gardens? 43 lots is less than 1% of the total lots the city is hoarding. The lease would consist of a requirement to have a community garden up and running within 9 months and that the tenant would maintain the entire space as such for the term of the lease. Additionally, the city should only charge a nominal fee for the lease. $12 per year would be the suggested number. The city would likely want to consider incorporating some additional rules around this lease, such as if the tenant will be able to charge patrons for a plot or a raised bed space. What fee would be reasonable given the building supplies and effort that went into creating the garden? What fee would be unreasonable given the reasons for having the lots available in the first place, such as eliminating barriers for growing one's own food? A typical fee that is seen around the country is to rent a raised bed space to community members for about $10 a month. The city could require that any fees collected from gardeners by the tenant be used to reimburse for the setup of the garden, maintenance of the lot, and purchase of gardening equipment, and that no profit be collected. These are all questions that would need to be addressed while keeping in mind that the spirit of the lot lease is to eliminate food deserts and help people grow their own fresh, healthy food. The city already has an online publication called Community Garden, a policy guideline. The guideline gives information of permits and requirements for a community garden. This guideline could help tenants get started with the particulars of the rules, such as setbacks and fences. The city would benefit from a program like this because the transformation of a vacant eyesore lot would add beauty to the area and engagement to the community. The city residents would also benefit in being able to learn about self-sufficiency and sustainability, not to mention helping stamp out food insecurity and food deserts. And as we have noted previously, retirees like Sam could fulfill their love of teaching others how to grow their own food. In summary, all new development in the city must have 33% of its landscaping vegetation be fruit-bearing. Second, new parks and old parks being revitalized must have 33% of its vegetation be fruit-bearing, plus 10% of park space will be devoted to community garden space. Third, 43 lots that the city owns, one in each food desert, will be set aside and available for a 10-year lease for the purpose of hosting a community garden. In addition to the main policy recommendations already noted, some corresponding non-legal changes would add the finishing touches to the plan: education, information, and engagement. These are typically key factors in effectively implementing programs, especially on a citywide scale such as this. First, let's look at education. Who do we want to educate? What do we want to educate them about? Most often, parents make decisions for their children, so targeting parents and other adults, such as seniors, homeless, college-age adults, would be the first target audience. However, when kids are taught about where their food comes from, how it is grown, and how anyone can grow it, you can often instill a sense of understanding, responsibility, and self-confidence in them that will last a lifetime. Teaching kids would be the ultimate goal in raising a new generation of self-sufficient young people. Moreover, kids can also sway their parents or caregivers to look into new things they are learning about, effectively creating a back door to parental involvement. And what do we want to educate adults and kids about? We want to educate them about how to be self-sufficient, how to solve problems, how to forage for food when the gas station is closed or when you have no money. We want to teach them what real food looks like, why fresh food is more healthy than processed food-like products, and ultimately, we want to teach people how to grow their own food to end the problem of food insecurity. Informing people that edible fruit is available to them at no cost would be one key to success. So many people in America have been taught that eating wild berries or other quote-unquote wild fruit could lead to being poisoned, and that eating something that doesn't come from a store might even kill you. We would need to help inform the public that it is okay, even encouraged, that they pluck a fruit or a berry and use it to curb their hunger. Using park signs near the entrance of the park would help inform visitors that they may pick and eat anything in the park. Have you ever walked through a park and asked, "I wonder what kind of tree that is?" Simple signs identifying trees and their fruit would also let visitors know what they are picking and where to look for the fruit-bearing trees. The city could also turn this into another opportunity to partner with art clubs, schools, and after-school programs to create simple signs like the one pictured here. Signage could also include information about when and how to pick ripe fruit. After all, there's nothing worse than biting into an unripe persimmon. As it turns out, you don't need to start with community engagement, but rather community gardens will promote engagement. According to the Journal of Regional Studies Regional Science, a study done in Scotland shows that growing food plays a big role in a community's recreation and leisure activities, personal development, and the development of children related to the impact on their communities. The study also reported that the participants felt the gardens were places that fostered neighborly engagement, increased leisure opportunities, social support, community health connectedness, and community diversity. They were also places that promoted knowledge exchange inside the garden and into the homes of the people and the community itself. What a great way to grow a connected city. So why is this a good plan to eliminate food deserts, help stamp out food insecurity, and begin to fix the vacant lot problem? First, this plan has minimal bureaucratic hurdles because it only requires small changes to permits and maintenance guidelines. Second, there are essentially no competing uses to park development or commercial and retail development. The only thing competing are which plants to use over others. Securing 43 vacant lots, yes, would be a competing use, but if a lot has been sitting vacant for years and no one wants it, then it is more likely that there is no competing use involved at all. And last, this plan stands to subvert any structural racism claims that could be asserted. The plan does target older neighborhoods, which the city is considering revitalizing, and it targets public parks where anyone, even homeless people, may visit or dwell, and it targets commercial spaces where anyone may patronize or pass by. The new plans are not limited to traditionally white or only neighborhoods that are new, but also older neighborhoods and more ethnic neighborhoods alike, with residential and commercial districts mixed in. Moreover, the proposal to acquire lots specifically in food deserts will inherently target neighborhoods with poor food access, typically poorer neighborhoods. This plan aspires to reach people from all walks of life. These policy changes, paired with the finishing touch recommendations, would allow Phoenix residents to be able to forage for fresh fruit right in the city, as well as grow a food garden near their home. This would indeed make Phoenix better than a desert oasis. It would truly be a Garden of Eden. Thank you.